Alma Woodsey Thomas was an African-American artist and art teacher. She was born on September 22, 1891 in Columbus, Georgia. Her family moved to Washington, D.C. when she was just a little child. It was here that she continued to live and work for the rest of her life. Her abstract art is most recognized for its use of pattern, repetition, rhythm, and most importantly, her vibrant, beautiful use of color. First, write your name on the back of your paper before you begin. We're going to start using watercolor pencils. Now, these might look like regular old colored pencils, but they are not. They are actually paint pencils. Yep, you heard me correctly, paint pencils. Let me explain a little bit about them. You can tell the difference between a paint pencil and a regular colored pencil because they have a paintbrush right on the side. They also say watercolor right beside the paintbrush, so you know this is a paint pencil and not a regular colored pencil. Use these for painting projects only, please. Do not use these for anything other than painting projects. I'll show you a little bit about how these work on a scrap piece of paper before I start on my project. To use these pencils, you simply color right on the paper like you would with a normal colored pencil. You really don't need to press very hard at all with these. The color comes off pretty easily. If you want a lighter color, use very light pressure. If you want a darker color, go over it a few times with a few layers. You don't have to press very hard. Please don't press very hard with these pencils because the tip would just break off. So if you want a darker color, just go over it a few times with some more layers of color. So lighter, light pressure, darker, more layers. If your pencil gets dull, it just gets sharpened like a regular colored pencil would in a sharpener. One of these handheld sharpeners would be just fine, or if you have an electric pencil sharpener like we have in the classroom, that would work too. After coloring, the next thing to do is use a wet paintbrush right on top of the colored pencil. Dip it into the water, wipe the extra on the edge of the cup or the bowl, and just go right over top of the paint or the pencil, and it turns into paint. Pretty cool, huh? Look at that. Now I'm going to wash off this color and go to this one to see how much lighter it is. There we go. That's a nice dark red, and that's more like a rosy pink color. Because I didn't use a lot of color, I just used a lot of very small amount of pressure and not a lot of layers of color on this one. I used a lot of layers of red on this one, that's why it's darker. Okay, now remember, just like we would with regular paints, anytime you want to change to a different color or a different section color, wash off your brush. Dip, wipe it on the edge of the cup or the bowl, and go right over top. Nice dark orange because I used a lot of layers there. Very light color orange because I didn't use a lot of layers here and I used very light pressure. All right, to get started, go ahead and choose a color, any color, and pick a spot, any spot on your paper, and draw a circle. Not a huge circle, not a teeny tiny circle, maybe about the size of a quarter. Color it in. Then when you're done, choose a new color, and you're going to work in small patches, coloring in small patches around that circle. So I'm doing on top of the circle, then I'm doing underneath, then the sides, and this is to help make sure that my patches are even. So then I'm going in between with smaller patches. This is giving your artwork radial balance. In art, radial balance is any type of balance based on a circle. with its designs extending from the center. So here I started in the center and I'm working my way out, and those colors, those patches of color, are radiating out from the center, creating a circular shape. This is a pretty common characteristic in Alma Woodsey Thomas's work. Another common characteristic of her work is that she often leaves white spaces showing between her patches or her swatches of color. There are probably a lot of reasons why she chose to do this and leave white spaces in between her colors. Why do you think she chose to do it? Whatever her reason, it certainly makes her composition more interesting and adds a lot more variety to her artwork. Notice that as I'm coloring around my circular shape, I'm turning my paper. Turning your paper will give you a better angle and a better viewpoint for when you're coloring your patches. So when you're coloring around the circle, it'll be much easier if you turn your paper along the way. All right, I'm going to speed this up a little bit and I'll meet you back here in a minute. All right, my coloring is complete. Here, remember, just as a reminder, leave empty white spaces in between each color patch just to break up some space a little bit, make your composition a little bit more interesting. Also, the spaces will keep the paint from running together when we paint this. Okay, welcome back for day 2 of our Alma Thomas inspired works of art. Now we're going to paint this watercolor pencil. All you need is a placemat, a cup of water or a bowl of water, and a brush. Dip your brush into the water, wipe off some of that extra because you don't want a drippy, soaking wet brush to dribble and drip water all over your artwork. You want to get some of that extra water off before you go onto your paper. And then you just start painting. Go slowly and use control. You don't want to go all over your paper with your brush in one single swoop and swipe, because then that's just going to blend the colors all together and you're going to lose a lot of those empty white spaces that we see in Alma Thomas's work. So we want to try to keep those white spaces in there. Anytime you switch to a new color, make sure you wash off your brush. Might be a good idea to just go around and do all the same colors first instead of starting in the middle and working your way out. So I started with the magenta here, so I'm just going to hop around and find all the other magenta spots and paint them. Use the tip of your brush. If you feel like your paint, the brush is starting to get dry and the paint isn't painting as well, just give your brush a little drink, a little dip in the water, and continue. Okay, I'm going to finish this in hyperspeed and I'll be right back. Okay, my painting is finished. Now, if you were in the classroom with us, your painting and your placemat need to go to the drying rack to fully dry. If you are at home, this needs to go on the floor somewhere flat and hard, like a table or like a countertop or like a kitchen floor, something like that, where it can dry and lay flat. Okay, that's it. Can't wait to see what you guys make.